Well, hey there, everybody. It's Mrs. Asaro, and I am here to teach your class about point of view and perspective. Before we get into it, I'd just like to take a moment to introduce myself to you. I'm Mrs. Asaro, and I have an online teaching store called All-in-One Middle School. I was a teacher for 34 years. Teaching language arts was my passion. This lesson is a mini lesson, so it's concise. You'll be very clear on what you should do and know by the end. This presentation, along with guided notes, are available to print in my TPT store. You can see the link for that in the video description. If you are using the guided notes, you should fill them in when you see this icon. If your teacher lets you work with a partner, you will turn and talk in certain points. I hope you find this lesson helpful. Let's dive in. It's always good to have a mentor text to refer to when learning new skills. For this lesson, we're going to examine the story, The True Story of the Three Little Pigs. Your teacher may prefer for you to use a different mentor text. If so, when you take notes, just substitute what your teacher tells you to use. You're going to pause my video and click on the read aloud of The True Story of the Three Little Pigs. It's about 7 minutes long. While you're watching, think about the viewpoint of the characters. The link to it is in the video description, and we will discuss the video a little bit later on in the slideshow. So for now, pause this video and watch. So why do we need to know about point of view and perspective? There's no doubt that you have been reading and listening to stories, poems, and songs, and hopefully this is something that you have enjoyed. Without realizing it, one of the first things we notice about a story is who is telling it. It might be a character or it might be a narrator. This is called point of view, and it is related to perspective, which is the attitude and experiences of the person telling it. Understanding perspective can lead us to understanding the theme, which is the author's message about the story. So understanding point of view and perspective will lead you to a better understanding of theme. So let's get on board here. Point of view and perspective. Today's goal is to understand that the point of view and perspective affects the story greatly, and it can also affect how we see other characters. It can also give us a hint of the author's message, which is the theme. It is important that as we read, we understand who is telling the story and what the perspective, the attitudes and experiences. So for point of view, let's get into a definition, and you're going to notice here that we now have our icon. For the guided notes, if you're using guided notes, you'll fill them in now. Point of view is the vantage point from which the story is told. This is not the author. First person means that one of the characters, using the personal pronoun I, tells the story. In third person, the narrator tells everything that is going on in the story and speaks in third person. He, she, they, it, and names of characters, except in the dialogue. Now, a note to make here is that there is a second person point of view. This is when the narrator speaks directly to the audience and they use words like you. It is not common in literature. You would probably see that more in poetry and songs. So now you're going to try it. You're going to think about the true story of the Three Little Pigs. You're going to turn and talk with your partner and discuss what is the point of view, first, second, or third person, and why do you think the author chose this type of point of view? Okay, so you're going to pause the video and turn and talk and discuss these questions. If you have guided notes, you'll fill them in as well. So there are 3 variations on third person point of view, And they can get a little confusing, and you don't have to have a perfect grasp of each one, but you should be aware of the different types, okay? First, there is third person limited. This is when the author limits themselves to one character's perspective at a time, but the narrator knows what that chosen character feels or thinks. The author may use only one character's point of view throughout the whole book, or they may switch between multiple characters. For third person objective, the narrator is neutral and does not know the character's feelings or thoughts. They tell the story with the tone of an observer. And third person omniscient. Omniscient means all-knowing. The narrator knows everything about every character and can tell the audience things that some characters don't know yet. So there are a lot of advantages to each one of these. We're going to take a look at that in a moment. But for now, you're going to turn and talk, okay? I want you to think about an event in your life that happened recently. It doesn't have to be anything major, and some ideas could be a recent test that you took in school or a soccer game that you won. And you're going to turn and talk and tell it to your partner first in first person point of view using I, me, my, that kind of thing. And then you're going to try to retell it using third person objective, where you're just telling what happened without knowing anybody's feelings. You're just reporting what happened. And then you're going to discuss which point of view did you enjoy more and why. Okay, so this is going to take a few minutes, so pause my video and turn and talk to your partner about these questions here. Okay, like I said, there are advantages to using different points of view when you're reading or when you're writing your own information, your own story, your own poem, your own song. In first person, it creates a close relationship between the reader and the main character. It creates what we would call an immersive experience, meaning you're right in there. You feel like you're living in the character's story. The reader understands the main character's feelings completely. In third person omniscient, the readers get descriptions that might not be available to the characters. The reader gets facts and background that might not be available to the characters, and the reader can form more of their own opinions as they are not just getting the perspectives of the main character. In third person limited, you get a clear understanding of one character at a time. There are clear descriptions from the character who is focused on, and details can be hidden that later shock you as a reader. Okay? And lastly, our third person objective. We get a clear view of the events of the story. The information is presented in a neutral way because the narrator doesn't take sides. Readers don't have access to the character's thoughts, which can create suspense and intrigue. So now you're going to try it. Now I do want to tell you this is really tough. This is a tough one. You're going to do your best though. You're going to try to give an example of a famous book or song written in first person. That one should be pretty easy. Then you're going to try an example of a famous book or song written in third person limited, then in third person objective, and third person omniscient. Now, I do want to say this. It's hard. Don't get so caught up in every little thing. You don't have to have a perfect list at the end. Just discussing some famous books and songs and trying to figure out which one it is a great discussion, and it does not have to be absolutely correct. Okay, so pause my video and turn and talk about famous books and songs written in the different points of view. Okay, let's talk about perspective. Perspective, like we said, is a narrator's attitudes or beliefs about an event, person, or place based on their experiences. Here are some things that can affect a character's perspective: their social economic status, the personal events in their life, maybe divorce or abuse, their mental capability, gender, world events like pandemics and wars, religious beliefs, education level, race or ethnicity, and political beliefs. Okay, so now you're going to try this. You're going to think about the true story of the three little pigs. You're going to turn and talk and discuss, according to the wolf, what events are going on in his life that are changing his perspective. Do you have sympathy for the wolf? Why or why not? Do you have sympathy for the pigs? Why or why not? Pause my video and turn and talk to your partner about these questions. Okay, so there's a lot of information in here. Let's kind of sum it all up. First, it's important to always recognize which point of view a story has because it changes the way that the story is told, obviously. It is important to recognize the perspective of the characters. It is equally important to apply this knowledge to any creation, a song, a movie, a piece of art, etc. Doing this will give you a better overall understanding of the author's message, which is the theme. For example, by examining the wolf's perspective, the author's message in the true story of the three little pigs could be that things aren't always how they look. And that is a wrap. Be sure to tune back in for more Teach My Class episodes. You can also check out First Chapter Friday on my YouTube channel, where I'll read the first chapters of my favorite middle school novels. Hope to see you soon.